Paul-Connett is here, and he's got another local doctor who's with the group fighting the fluoridation of water here with him. And I know you've been in Australia, New Zealand, other parts of Europe, here in the U.S., traveling all over the place. And since you were here in town, we wanted to get you in studio with us for a couple segments. Then we're going to do another interview in our new studio. Dr. Paul-Connett is a Ph.D. from Dartmouth College and joined the faculty at St. Lawrence University in '83. Connett's opposition to the way they're handling the solid waste, basically fluoride, dumping it in our water, has gotten international attention. The website's fluoridealert.org. And he's here in Austin, Texas tonight, speaking with the city council and others. He also is going to be speaking tonight at 7 p.m. at 1904 Guadalupe Street, and City Hall Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then there's another little factoid here. 10% of children in 1940 had dental fluorosis. 45% of kids have it now. And since you were last in studio with us, I have a few very exciting, positive things to talk about that I want you to address. EPA proposes phase out of fluoride-based pesticide. And they admit it bioaccumulates and attacks all the organs in the body. Yeah. That just came out a few months ago. On the same day, U.S. wants to reduce fluoride in drinking water from 1.2 to 0.7 parts per million. And they're admitting increase of dental fluorosis, bone cancer, all of this. So, but I wonder, when you speak to the city council this time, will they laugh at you? Because they don't do any research. They don't have any facts. They just pay $1 million of taxpayer money every year to get a toxic waste that they'd have to store somewhere. Why not just put it in our water and give us bone cancer and laugh at us? Because we're animals, after all, Dr. Connett.
Well, unfortunately, what happens with these councils is they will defer to their local health officer. And without realizing the local health officer, with the issue of fluoridation, is simply a mouthpiece, a clockwork toy, if you like, for federal policy. Once the U.S. Public Health Service endorsed fluoridation, a lot of things ensued. Today, we have the Center of Disease Control telling everybody that fluoridation is the best thing since sliced bread. It's one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. And quite frankly, the people in the middle of these bureaucracies, in the chain of command, if they were to come out against this policy, they would be out of work tomorrow. That's what you got to remember. They're out of work if they don't support policy. They are trained, bureaucrats are trained not to question policy. Their job is to promote policy. And that's unfortunately so when you have councillors who don't have medical degrees, scientific degrees, or dental degrees, they have to choose between these group of concerned citizens and their health officer. And unfortunately, they appear to be siding with the health officer, even though he doesn't have the science to support his case.
And that person's a politician, too. The big chemical lobbies want us to pay for their toxic waste. It, of course, has the degenerative and population reduction qualities of infertility and IQ reduction that the eugenicists favor. But getting into the pure science, what do you make of all these big moves by the government quietly to start reducing the amount of fluoride?
Well, two things happened in January the 7th. The one you heard about was that the Department of Health and Human Services was lowering the standard to 0.7, the amount recommended to fight tooth decay. A few days later, we heard that the EPA pesticide division had withdrawn its support for sulfurofluoride. That was been an 8-year battle from the Fluoride Action Network. We've been fighting that. It was clear from the very beginning that they didn't have a leg to stand on because kids were already being overexposed to fluoride. So whatever reference dose, so-called safe dose, that you can come up with, children are already exceeding it. So there's no way that the EPA legally could have permitted sulfurofluoride. But the pesticide division and the water division working together had two choices. Were they going to pull the rug out of Dow AgroSciences and their use of sulfurofluoride, or were they going to pull the rug away from the water fluoridation program? Because the major source of fluoride, which is exceeding the safe limits and preventing sulfurofluoride from being used, is water fluoridation. So if they pulled the rug from underneath the water fluoridation program, Dow AgroSciences could have continued to use sulfurofluoride. But they didn't do that. They pulled the rug from out from under Dow and continued to support fluoridation. So when you got the statement from the EPA Office of Water the death sentence was, we are going to protect children's health, at the same time protect children's teeth. And that's a way of telling you that they're not going to do honest science here. And they're not doing honest science because they haven't considered the 24 IQ studies. Since I was in the studio, there's been an update on one study and a new study indicating at low levels of fluoride, children's IQ is being lowered in China. So they're ignoring all that. So they are saying, Alex, they are saying that the most sensitive endpoint of fluoride's toxicity is severe dental fluorosis. And they claim to be able to protect against that. They didn't use a margin of safety in their calculations. They didn't. It was incredible. The whole thing is incredible.
But the fact is, the stone wall, the Berlin Wall, is cracking.
Yes.
They're having to respond. What about saying don't use it as a pesticide? Because from my research, that's where it really is building up.
Yeah, with this, they were allowing incredible levels of fluoride residues. The trouble with sulfurfluoride is that when you use it on food, to protect food, you leave residues of fluoride, and that was what got them. And the levels that they were permitting, like 125 parts per million in wheat flour. Well, think of all the things you make from wheat flour: pizza dough, biscuits, cookies, cakes, bread. I mean, 125 parts per million? We could have kids vomiting.
Just a few parts per million is reducing IQs. I mean, no wonder. I talked to a lot of professors that have been teaching a long time, and they say people are not as sharp as they were even 20, 30 years ago. And it's because we've got brain-damaged zombies.
We also have television. No insult to you. I mean, commercial television.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that's dumbing down the people. So, no, we've had some tremendous victories. Canada is the place where things are happening. I think it's a race between Canada, New Zealand, and Ireland. I was in Dublin just a few days ago. I think it's a race between those three countries as to which country cracks first.
Because they don't want to be lobotomized, but the big chemical industry is pushing. Give us a survey of your travels around the world.
Okay, well, let's start with Canada, where we launched the book in Toronto. We've got the two wings of Canada essentially fluoride-free. British Columbia and Quebec are essentially fluoride-free. We had a major victory in October when Waterloo, about 500,000 or 600,000 people voted out fluoridation by a tight whisker, but it was very important. And then just a few days ago, the final ratification that Calgary in Alberta has stopped fluoridation. It's finished. As of May 19th, it's out.
So the hoax is imploding. Lago Vista, outside Austin, I was reading, is moving to not have it. Yeah. San Diego has put a hold on putting it in, correct?
I'm not sure about San Diego. They had gone ahead. The government had gone ahead despite enormous protests. I was there in San Diego, again, launching the book.
Last time I saw it, just a month ago, there was a hold, but perhaps that's been overturned.
Well, what happened was that the Commission 5, I think they're called, this tobacco money, tobacco tax money, is being used to finance the operations of fluoridation in California. So when a committee, they can't put fluoride in the water unless they've got a private source of funding. And so this Commission 5, the tobacco money, which actually is tax money, so that was illegal. But they're using this tobacco 5 money Commission 5 money to
because they care so much about our teeth.
But they've cut back. They've had a cutback on their funding of all kinds of programs. But guess which one was not cut back? Fluoridation. So they cut back on all kinds of clinics and other important things that they were supporting. But apparently they've left the fluoridation, but maybe not in San Diego.
But as you were saying, all over the world, we're seeing major headway.
Oh, absolutely. I've just been, as you said, in Australia and New Zealand. The responses from the audiences compared to last time is huge. Double, triple the audiences, incredible amount of enthusiasm, organization. Fan New Zealand is making great strides. We had very good meetings, council meetings where both sides were heard at length. So I've got my fingers crossed in particularly New Zealand and Canada.
What does it signify, though, that they're, they stonewalled, and I know I've gone back to this twice, but the fact that they're now having to back up and say, okay, we're going to stop using it for pesticide, we're going to cut it in the water. I mean, that's got to add a lot of weight for people like you and other doctors when they go before city councils and they smirk and laugh. Well, why are they cutting the levels then?
That's right. Well, they can't deny that American children are overexposed to fluoride. This is what they said. 41% of children aged 12 to 15 have some form of dental fluorosis. 41%. And that's all American kids. That's an average of kids living in non-fluoridated and fluoridated. So the kids in the fluoridated communities are probably over 50% now have dental fluorosis. And remember, when they started this in 1945, they thought just 10% of children would have dental fluorosis in its very mild form. Now we have 3.6% of American children with either moderate or severe dental fluorosis. That's 100% of the tooth enamel discolored and indented, and in the severe form made brittle.
And imagine what it's doing to the bones.
And imagine what it's doing to the brains. I mean, this has been the whole point. You know, to add absurdity on absurdity, fluoridation should have ended in 1999 when the Centre for Disease Control conceded that the major benefit of fluoride is topical. My goodness, it works on the outside of the tooth, not from inside the body. Why on earth, once you know that, are you forcing it on people that don't want it, when anybody can get fluoridated toothpaste if they want it? It's universally available. It's difficult to get non-fluoridated toothpaste. Why force it on people that don't want it? And why expose every tissue in the body if this stuff works topically?
Well, that's, I've made the joke, but it's not funny. That'd be like drinking sunscreen instead of putting it on your skin.
Absolutely.
Dr. Connett, let's talk about what you think is most important in this final quick segment on the other side. So glad to have you here in town speaking at Brave New Books tonight.